Friends, Bison, country folk, great to be with you here today. We're going to dive into part 9. This is really where the rubber meets the road, where we get into Bison medicine protocol here. But before we do, I just want to give you a couple updates. Just returned from San Diego, spent a week there. And it's kind of germane to what we're going to talk about today. So I spent almost every moment of my time there with somebody or with a group of folks from my former men's circle down there. And those ended up being my best friends for the 4.5 years I was down in San Diego. And our circle went through a bunch of shifts. So, we went virtual during the pandemic. And then at some point we're like, this stinks. And so I actually shut down the circle. And then, I visited another circle, actually a couple other circles. And then we rebooted it with intention. And created this kind of core group of folks that we called the stewards that had a commitment to one another, and commitment to the work. So we were going to show up to every meeting that we were in town and, not ill, do another training, at least one a year. So to become a better facilitator, attend these quarterly kind of fun evenings, and then attend the annual camp out, basically. So we rebooted it, and it had a lot of great energy. And that was basically when I left. So early 2023. Since I left, I've gone down to visit for various reasons. And I've just been blown away by how the group just seems like up level in terms of facilitation, in terms of how loving they are with each other. And this most recent trip, I got to spend time with all these individual folks, going to coffee, surfing, going on hikes, breaking bread. The main reason I was down there was for one of those guys' 45th birthday that we roasted. And then I also did a book event for my buddy Hanson on Thursday. I'll share more about that in a bit. But what they have matured into, in a sense, just, this is one man's opinion here, is almost like a conscious masculinity cult. And I don't mean cult in any of the negative sense, but, within our society that doesn't value that or doesn't, encourage folks to do that, these guys have really taken it on. And so in addition to all those commitments to become better men, better facilitators, help stand for each other's greatness, they've taken on community at a level that I've not really seen. And so I think they have maybe 15, 20 guys in the group, of which maybe 7 or 8 are the kind of the inner core. They got everyone on this app called Halo, which my buddy Eric down the road actually is the founder of. And what it's allowed them to do is to create asynchronous communication in between meetings. So they meet every Wednesday night, but they're also checking in on different things. So if they need support around a stretch, or if they need support around some other breakdown, they can coordinate that there. So hey guys, I'm struggling, give me a call, kind of thing. But then they've also instituted coffee dates. I think it's once a month, maybe twice a month. And then there's a group of guys within the group that are surfers, and so where they used to just go surf by themselves, now they go together. So they'll meet up at Torrey Pines or Mission Beach and go surfing. And of course, all the other things that go along with friendship, like moving couches and coming to kids' graduations and backyard barbecues and all that. And it's driven primarily, not primarily, but my buddy Hanson, he's the one who's really kind of taken on how deep of a community can we have? So we're going to talk about that today. And I just want to name that I'm floating on the high of having experienced all that with these men. and then had a wonderful event on Thursday night. A mix of live folks from San Diego, Hanson's kind of culture community folks down there. And there's one kind of new addition that I interjected into the experience. And so, for those of you who don't know, I always begin this experience with greeting them outside of wherever the meeting space is and saying, "Hey, this is going to be a special event, a special gathering that is going to have you connect more deeply with yourself, one another, and potentially what it means to live here in the United States." And then I said, before you walk in, spend time with this little Post-it note that has you marinate on what is the moment or the place that most connects you to what this country is really all about. So, like, for a lot of folks, it's hearing grandfathers talk about World War II or Korean War, Vietnam War. Some folks, it's like the first baseball game after 9/11. It's those sorts of things that like really kind of connect you to what we're supposed to be up to here. And then we move inside. They then share with people they don't know about that moment or that place. Move through a couple other experiences. I won't give it all away, but I interjected another kind of opening pair share question that I want to share with y'all. And that is, what are your deal breakers? So if this nation is a covenant, like a marriage, like you're signing up to join with 330 million people, if it is a covenant, what would have you be like, nope, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to start packing my bags right now. Not like I'm going to think about it, but if this happened, I'm out. And so that was really rich. And some folks are like, I've already packed my bags. I'm just trying to, get this lined up, get that lined up, the kids' schools, blah, blah, blah. Like, we are gone. And of course, that makes me sad. But I get it, especially if you have people in your care who need health care, people in your care who have been strategically undervalued. So people of color, folks who are LGBTQIA. I get it. Like you're in charge of their lives, and you're like, okay, well, we're gonna, until they're grown, we're going to Canada or New Zealand or Costa Rica. Totally get it. And a bunch of folks, I was also not happy to hear this one, but like, oh, if my personal safety was at stake, which I get, and our personal safety is always at stake, right? It's yeah. But the answers that inspired me most were the folks who are like, over my dead body. Or like, yeah, I'm a target. I'm a targeted, historically, strategically valued population. Or yeah, I have a lot to lose. But they're like, if I leave this country now when she is at her worst, do I have the right to call myself an American? I was like, yes, that's the thing. Let's get married. And that's really what kind of Bison medicine is all about. It is a marriage proposal. It is a marriage proposal from the land, from the Haudenosaunee, from the other 330 million Americans, from our founders. Say, let's do this thing. Let's do all created equal, and like really do it. And so there are people there who are ready to take their vows, which oh man, so great. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Again, thank you to Jared Brickhouse Media. And if this moves you at all and you want to pay it forward, feel free to make a donation to the American Prairie, AmericanPrairie.org. Part 9, Bison Medicine Protocol. We'll begin with a quote from Herman Melville in Moby Dick. Delight is to him a far, far upward and inward delight, who against the proud gods and commodores of this earth ever stands forth in his own inexorable self, Delight is to him who gives no quarter in the truth, and kills, burns, and destroys all sin. End quote. Pause on that for just a second. So we've talked about purpose quite a bit. We've talked about parts work, becoming whole. That's what Melville's talking about, the inexorable self, like the whole self, who is 100% like trying to root out all parts of him or herself that are not aligned. And so that's what he means by kill, burn, destroy all sin. I would use it a little bit more, less like Ahab, because it's an Ahab quote, more like who transforms, understands, and integrates all their inner parts and all their desires. But the piece I love also is this, who against the proud gods and commodores of this earth. So all the people, all the power structures who are telling you, you have to be somebody else. Who are like, nope. Just like, I'm going to be myself. And if you don't like it, if you want to jail me, you want to kill me, that's fine. But I'm not going to kneel. I'm not going to kneel. All right. So next quote. This is from Martin Luther King Jr.'s, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s widow, Coretta Scott King. Quote, if the soul of the nation is to be saved, I believe that you must become its soul. And I should note that she said this to a group of women, and it was basically saying, like, ladies, like this is your battle cry. If you want this country to be a good place, to have kids, to be a kid, to be an adult, to elder, to die, you have to become it in the same way that Whitman and Melville attempted to become it, the same way that Dickinson attempted to become the whole nation enfleshed in one body. So, pointing to that similar inexorable self. So with this understanding of our nation's covenant, we must now open our hearts to the humanity, dignity, and potential of all people who call this land home. Create structures and policies that repair the sins of our past and present, and provide actual safety, equity, and flourishing in our communities. Demonstrating in full that in this nation is where each person loves themselves as much, or loves another much as themselves. And for any of this to happen, we need an inspiring and robust vision guided by the symbolic power and medicine of the bison to complete our shared mission. So what would it feel like if we were all safe, secure, on purpose, healed, prosperous, educated, creatively expressed in our careers, connected to our communities, civically engaged, and immersed in the natural world? What would be possible if we felt and experienced goodwill towards all in every aspect of our lives? What would be possible if each community was the full expression of all created equal, e pluribus unum, in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? How would you feel if isolation, polarization, poverty, hunger, obesity, homelessness, racism, rape, pollution, imperialism, and police terror were nothing but a distant memory of our nation's misspent youth? What if the vision in every human heart was realized? So I'd like to begin this question with a story. Having led purpose work for tens of thousands of people around the world, I've never encountered a vision for the world that was evil. I've never seen a purpose about hate or domination or exploitation. Whether high school students, CEOs, tradespeople, defense contractors, church folk, Marines, or homemakers, every single person I've worked with has a life-giving, peaceful, loving vision for humanity in their hearts. So in 2019, I was invited to the Monroe Correctional Complex just outside of Seattle to lead a half-day purpose exploration for a population of 60 protected inmates. Because of their identities and or crimes, They could not be held in the general population. Among them were rapists, drug traffickers, gang members, transgender folks, pedophiles, and murderers. After completing an exercise to reveal what most breaks their hearts and to discern what kind of world would heal their heartbreak, each of these 60 souls stood and delivered their vision for the world. Each vision was breathtaking. Many produced tears in both the people who gave them and in us who received it, demonstrating to all of us in that room that no human is without love, forgiveness, and beauty in their hearts. Each of these souls reminded us that none of us is beyond redemption. As Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative in the movie, where he was portrayed by Michael B. Johnson. As Brian Stevenson observed, each of us is more than the worst thing we've done. We are far more. So with this in mind, and with Bison medicine and the purpose of our nation in our hearts, actually, let me pause here for a second. This experience in 2019 was the highlight of my year. So here I am, this kind of white kid from the Midwest, going through all the security and, stuff, going in this prison. And my only real reference points being like movies and like series like Oz. I'm like, okay, I'm afraid. Like, I'm afraid. I mean, I felt safe. People I was with were, friends and colleagues, but I was like, I've never done this before. Never led purpose work in a prison. And as soon as I got onto the yard, there was like nothing but love. Like, all of these folks who, I was about to go leave with were like smiling, being, loving with each other, like greeting us. Oh, hey, great to see you, welcome back. And to my colleagues. And it was like very tender. And so by the time that we actually began the work, I mean, these folks they dropped right in, and they activated their purpose. And some of these folks were like, they were never going to see the outside again. And they still want a world where everyone's free, everyone's loved. Yeah, I get tingles thinking about it. So with this in mind, and with Bison medicine and the purpose of our nation in our hearts, allow me to offer a draft version or vision of our nation at the most tangible felt level. So I'm going to share like what this vision for the entire nation could look like. Yeah, it's not for me to say. I'm just provisionally offering this. We are healthy. We breathe clean air, drink clean water, eat healthy food, move our bodies, and have equal access to health-enhancing opportunities. We are all safe. We are free from violence, poverty, oppression, hunger, pollution, and disease, and the threat of violence, poverty, oppression, hunger, pollution, and disease. We all belong. Our dignity is recognized, and we are cared for in our families, neighborhoods, communities, and workplaces. We are actualized and actualizing. We are healing and healed, sourced by our unique life purpose, and creatively and sustainably expressing it in our civic, vocational, leisure, and community endeavors. We all enjoy life. We are immersed in nature and relish in the illimitable ecological, cultural, scientific, and creative expressions of our diverse nation. We all have faith. We love and believe in our fellow Americans and in our government to fulfill our nation's purpose, secure our rights, and the conditions for all of us to flourish, to ensure free and fair elections, and enact legislation that meets the moment, that meaningfully addresses our poly crisis, and continually expands our ability to flourish. All of our children thrive. We have become a fantastic place to have a child, to be a child, with each child growing into a whole, joyous, healthy, connected, and inspired adult. all of our elders thrive. We have become a fantastic place to elder. Our fully actualized adults have matured into elders and are a part of our daily lives. They're revered and celebrated and play numerous critical roles to guide us into an even more flourishing future. We are all inspired. We are spiritually sustained by our shared purpose and our progress towards fulfilling it. We are a beacon of inspiration to people and governments the world over. So even though the vision in your heart may be worded differently or include other important elements, most folks want some version of this world. Like let this work a bunch. Everyone says more or less the same thing. Peace, justice, love, belonging, safety, creativity, freedom, like all the things that democracy, promises. So I invite you to take a moment to draft your own vision, replacing these elements with your own or adding missing elements. For example, you could say like, we all wake up fully rested. We all savor each day's sunset with our closest family and friends. We all continue to have the best sex of our lives. We're all surprised and delighted by the human excellence we witness throughout the day. We pause to connect with every person and experience loving kindness towards them. We all had turned our eyes towards the skies because we've solved all of Earth's problems and venture boldly into the great unknown. So these are examples of things that you might add to what I've just offered. So don't move forward in this book, in this video, until the vision feels real, like personal, resonant, like electrifies you in some manner. So I included 5 sentence stems, just we all ... So I invite you to pause this and write down at least 3, 4, 5 sentence stems that like would have you be inspired to work towards this vision of America. So what do you need to add to it? Thank you for coming back. Thank you for adding your unique contribution to our collective vision. So what would it take for these sentiments to be instinctual, such that we could keep the faith, hold firm, and withstand the sneakiness of Wetiko, our shadows of ignorance, arrogance, fear, bigotry, violence, greed, excess, bullying, and untrustworthiness? So there is a cure. I'll pause here for a second. The subtitle I haven't given much attention to, but it's The Cure for a Troubled Nation. We've spent, kind of the first, up through part 3 diagnosing like how bad it is. Then we've explored what we're supposed to be. So like, what is our form through our purpose statements? So all created equal, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, e pluribus unum. And then, introduced this symbol, the moral teachings of the Bison. So now we're getting to like where we can actually take the pill, do the regimen, get the surgery. So there is a cure for our troubled nation. There is a cure, a path, a protocol. When we activate our personal purpose, this is like, Whitman, Melville, Dickinson, when we become our fullness, we take the first and most important step towards wholeness, towards the Bison, towards our nation's great purpose. Our identity shifts from that of the socialized self that we talked about, and one that's fashioned by our Wetiko society, to our authentic self, like who we really are, our inexorable self. We become centered in our purpose instead of our caste or our orphanage. We have access to the motivation needed to embody and integrate our purpose in every area of our lives. So the key ones being health, home, love, family, community, career, finances, and spiritual life. So just like your whole life expresses and supports your purpose. While this journey begins with purpose work, it also requires years of other healing and transformative modalities. So progressing along your purpose journey, we will discover and heal our wounds. We will transform beliefs and behaviors that are out of alignment with our purpose. As we've explored, the impact of embodying and activating our personal purpose over time is that we thrive biologically. psychologically, socially, spiritually, and economically. The impact is that we fulfill and amplify life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in our lives. And as we've learned, it is also a great service to others. When we activate our personal purpose, we are able to find an authentic connection to larger sources of meaning, like marriages, companies, nations, such as those in our neighborhoods, faith community relationships, and our company's mission and value, and our nation's purpose. Having awakened purpose in ourselves, we unlock the spirit layer of our national purpose. So, e pluribus unum, opening our hearts and letting us see that others also have dignity, purpose, unique gifts, and the right to fulfill their potential. We become better friends, coworkers, lovers, parents, siblings, and members of civil society. Through the increased levels of pro-social attributes that purpose delivers, or more accurately say, correlated with, but we've explored in previous chapters, such as wisdom, inclusion, compassion, gratitude, generativity, personal growth, integrity, other-centeredness, forgiveness, empathy, self-reflection, and conscientiousness. We become our own unique expression of all created equal. We become steady prayer and the walking meditation of unus fiat ex pluribus, experiencing unity as we love each other as much as ourselves. Pause here for a second. So, talked about purpose a lot in part 7, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness. There are many things you can do to increase your life, your liberty, and happiness. But purpose is like the one that is available, meaning it is that inner transformation that liberates us from oppression. It's available to all of us. I don't want to say it's free because it takes time and energy, but it's more or less free. There's like thousands of books, probably tens of thousands of coaches that can help you with it. So it's there. It's ready for us. And when we do that, we become essentially what the nation is set out to achieve. We become our full selves. We're fully sovereign, connected, loving, sourced within a broader spiritual context. And so all of that research, all that stuff that I've shared with you, like you get that. But it begins with the purpose journey. So just as important as the personal and collective benefits of purpose is the discovery of the map of our own heart. So as we start to trace the contours of our ego's parts, so the critic, skeptic, risk manager, image consultant, wounded child, and our souls, of our shadows and our wounds, we developed a detailed map of our own inner world. While this map is unique to each of us, it also allows us to understand the maps of others better as we navigate our relationships. We can feel what's real and true in our hearts, in each other, and in society. We know when we're driven by Wetiko and when others are driven by it. We know when so pause here for a second. So I know when Wetiko is about to say something stupid in me. I can feel my stomach tighten. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this mofo. I'm just like, oh. And so you'll have your own ways of understanding it. Like you might notice your heart rate increasing. You might, might feel dizzy. Like there's all sorts of things that Wetiko's biomarkers could show up in your life. So you'll be able to notice it in yourself and likely be able to see it in others, especially ones you know well. You're like, oh, yeah, there's the Wetiko. Which is not to say you weaponize it, but it allows you the wisdom to see what's true and what's off purpose. So we know when we're doing something that is aligned with our souls and when we are not. Similarly, this inner map helps us see what beliefs and behaviors serve our collective soul and which ones do not. This inner map allows us to meet each other with compassion, seeing that everyone is doing the best they can given their access to resources, support, and their level of inner development. As the old parenting wisdom goes, Children need love most when they are the hardest to love. Similarly, a grown-up is the age they are acting in that moment and needs the appropriate type of love for their behavior or their age in that moment. Inside every act of anger is a 2-year-old whose agency and autonomy isn't respected. Inside every act of selfishness is a 4-year-old who won't share her toys with her friend. Inside every act of rebelliousness is a teen trying to get their needs met for love and acceptance. Every face tattoo, cosmetic surgery procedure, and luxury brand reveals a soul aching for the love and acceptance, asking to have their gifts valued by true adults and wisdom mentors, and asking to be safe. Like, if I do this, is it enough? Can I be safe and belong here? Yet, as we've explored, we are a social herd species who are by default groupish. So being the only one with a sense of purpose, while foundational, is still insufficient. We need purpose-centric communities or purpose-friendly environments to actually live our purpose. And only a teeny tiny percentage of us have these. If we don't have these communities and environments, we will either recapitulate to the norms and identities of our Wetiko castes and orphanages, or we will be ejected, which I've experienced many times. Not fun. Both of which are painful and suboptimal outcomes. They're a desecration of your purpose, our nation's purpose, Bison medicine, and our mammalian nature. So I'm going to just pause here for a second. There are very few purpose-friendly communities, and I'll go into that in a B. But I just want to invite you all to consider that whoever you think is your community is not a true community, as I'm about to define it. Like, there's probably a lot of folks who are attached to you being a certain way. They're not actually standing for you in your fullness. Like they're, yes, they might want you to be happy and to have a great life, but they generally, if they haven't done purpose work, if they're not in a community of people calling them on their Wetiko, on their shadows, on their BS, they probably have a very specific vision for what they want you to be. It's not their fault, just didn't have access to the resources, support, circles to do it. So as we move into this exploration of community, I want to share a quote from Dorothy Day. We have all known the long loneliness and have learned that the only solution is love, and that love comes with community. End quote. To guide us to firmly fulfill our purpose, let's reflect on the teaching of another powerful being, the butterfly, and its transformation from a caterpillar. So the caterpillar is about as Wetiko as a metaphor can be. It's a larva that voraciously consumes until it can no longer stay awake. It just eats everything. And then it weaves a cocoon for a nap. Inside this cocoon, the caterpillar dissolves its entire body into a gooey, toxic mess. Then an imaginal cell of the pupal butterfly is formed, but it is also not long for this world. The gooey, toxic mess comes in and kills it. Then 2 imaginal cells form, and the gooey, toxic mess kills them. Then 4, then 8, until they have sufficient strength in numbers and can, link together to cooperate and stave off the toxicity. So think about bison or cows in a herd. They're like, if they stay together when it's bad, they can withstand the cold, the wind better, and take turns who's on the outside kind of thing. Together, they form a base camp, receiving and integrating the rest of the imaginal cells as they emerge. These cells eventually become the pupa, growing wings, abdomen, legs. The fully developed pupa then breaks from the cocoon to become a butterfly, spending its remaining days serving, pollinating, delighting, flying, mating, and laying eggs. While this whole process is magical and wondrous, the part that has the greatest relevance to this moment is the relationship between the imaginal cells and the gooey, toxic mess. The imaginal cells, your soul or like your purpose are created in the tension of this gooey, toxic mess, which is more like our Wetiko. Yet they cannot survive alone. The emerging imaginal cells need each other to normalize their new butterfly identities, cooperate, and defend themselves against the gooey, toxic mess of the Wetiko. The same is true for humans. If we only activate our purpose, then Wetiko will crush or eject us. We need to activate our purpose with other people. As Ken Kesey said, find the others. Find the others who are like, flying their free flag, who are unafraid to be themselves. As such, Bison medicine is a two-part protocol, including both purpose activation and a community of peers on purpose. We have to activate our individual purpose in community with others who are also activating their purpose in order for our purpose transformation to reach its fullness and have a lasting effect. Think diet and exercise, vitamin C and zinc, self-expression and compassion, liberty and equality. I'll pause it for a second. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about late-stage capitalism and AI. Just seeing tariffs and ICE and just seeing how this gooey toxic mess is it's breaking down the caterpillar of the United States. It's chewing up supply chains, chewing up workforces, both working class, middle class, removing middle managers, and while it's easy to point fingers at the people doing it, we all know if you read part 2 and part 3, it wasn't working. It wasn't working before they started doing this stuff. So yeah, their intent and their awareness is not what we would want it to be, but in some sense they are liberating human potential. Not in a good way. There's lots of casualties, especially those who could least afford to endure them. People of color, LGBTQIA plus folks, immigrants, etc. But this is kind of like the nature of Wetiko, the nature of the gooey mess. It's just. But my hope is that things like Bison medicine, these are imaginal cells. These are the others that can help us create a new world, a new nation, one that is a much more honest expression of what we set out to do. So, unfortunately, few of us have experienced a true community or are aware that true community exists. As virtually all networks, associations, neighborhoods, religious institutions, organizations, and clubs in our nation are just groups, not true communities. Most are simply affinity groups or transactional networks composed of people who do not know their purpose, seek personal gain or pleasure, derive their identity from the group's norms and their shadows, their codes, their symbols, and regalia. This is another way of saying that these groups are frequently defined by what they are not. In many instances, which people or caste they stand against. I'll pause here for a second. So much energy is spent on some people call it virtue signaling, but it's really just gang. It's like throwing up gang signs, whether it's a Tesla or an old Chevy truck or, a lifted truck or, luxury brand or yard sign. I mean, that's what's going on. Now, it can be overt like that, or it could be very subtle. Like, say, in your church. Oh, the people who, there's probably like a couple in crowds in your church, like high school cliques. Same thing in companies, like old timers who were here before the blah, blah, blah. And so they they tend to act in a certain way. They'll even wear the old company logo. They'll do all this stuff that is just trying to signal, I'm better than you. I'm different than you. And so very few of us have experienced true communities. And that it doesn't mean there shouldn't be distinction based on merit. And that is the whole point of the Scouts merit badges. You did a thing. Now you can do a thing because you have the badge. It's not like because you're in the cool crowd. No, you actually did the thing. But so much of this stuff is just distinction without difference. Just saying, oh, I vote this way, or I blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. And that's why most group experiences aren't fulfilling. It feels just like, yeah, I'm doing this because I feel like I have to, or like this is what my people do, or we talk this way, we vote this way, we hate these people, we eat this food, blah, 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 blah. So, as knowing our individual purpose alone is insufficient to live our purpose individually or collectively, simply being a member of a group is also insufficient. Perhaps one of the greatest lessons we can learn from the 1960s is that well-intended groups that don't activate individual purpose is a recipe for disaster. So while rock and roll, free love, LSD, and the gurus of the 1960s were awesome, they lacked a purpose activation plan and a community of transparency and accountability. As such, they could not stave off the faces of Wetiko. Sure, quote here by Bell Hooks. Quote, I've seen that we cannot fully create effective movements for social change if individuals struggling for that change are not also self-actualizing or working towards that end. So she's basically saying you can't have any social movement of the 60s or civil rights or, farm labor unless people are becoming their whole selves. And that requires work, purpose work, parts work, trauma work, shadow work. So while students protested, and these protests played a pivotal role in ending the Vietnam War and expanding civil rights, the vast majority of this generation quickly recapitulated to the forces of Wetiko. After they tuned in, and dropped out, they wandered back into the status quo. They got married, cut their hair, finished their degrees, and suited up for a role in the orphanages. Those who didn't want back in started or joined cults, where Wetiko roamed freely and evolved into new forms within the prophet and among the followers, and almost always with spectacularly disastrous results. For example, Jonestown. As such, any well-intended group that does not empower people to activate their unique personal purpose, fulfill their potential, and find their unique connection to the group's purpose and values, and build authentic connections with others at this soul level isn't a true community, but a breeding ground for Wetiko. More bluntly, groups that don't help their members activate their unique purpose in community desecrate the purpose of our nation. They deny the authentic self-expression, potential, and thriving of their members. And they codify existing group polarization and inequities, both within their groups and outside of them. As such, all groups and organizations must be reformed and reimagined with purpose activation and belonging at the center of their members' experience. Pause here for a second. I feel like I've been beating a dead horse for like a decade on this. Everybody wins when everybody wins. Everybody wins when we shape environments for purpose and belonging. And what keeps organizations from doing this, meaning like unlocking the full potential of their people, their cultures, their organizations, achieving outsized results, doubling their valuation, all the awesome stuff that, capitalists want, is that the economic structures that keep a board in place, that keep a CEO in place, refuse to let them do that. They only want to extract for the next quarterly earnings. And even if they're a private company, the part of what's in the back of, say, the owner's minds is that I've lived 50, 60, 70 years without knowing who I am. What if, what if it turns out that I've been wrong my whole life? So this is like deep fear that they've been living a life that's unaligned. And as a result, so they keep doing what they're doing, keep extracting, keep exploiting people, keep denying them authentic connection to themselves, each other, the company's mission, all because they don't want to admit they're wrong. It's a human thing, but it's got to stop because we're all dying. So while we can bring our purpose and gifts to any conversation, there are some environments that have a greater role to play in empowering us to live our unique purpose and fulfill the stated purpose of our nation. Given that we spend 2,000 hours a year at work with an average tenure of 4 years and spend 1/3 of our lives at work, the workplace is the number one place to activate purpose and belonging. Although the United States continues to get more diverse over time, it's also becoming more segregated. And the result is that for most of us, the workplace is our main experience of diversity. And for many of us, it is our only experience of diversity. While some of us may attend a diverse church or play in sports leagues with diverse folks, we spend a paltry 20 to 100 hours a year in these environments, or 1 to 5% as much time as we spend at work. And for a multiracial nation with a purpose as bold, loving, and inclusive as ours, all roads lead through the workplace. It's where we spend our time. It's where we regularly receive onboarding, communications, career development, and leadership training. It's where we regularly interact with folks who are not like us. And while legacy DEI programs have historically been expensive and ineffective, and have now become a cultural third rail, an activist investor issue, creating a culture of purpose and belonging actually delivers the intended effect of DEI and the purpose of our nation, but without vilifying white folks in the process. The good news is that all company stakeholders benefit from purpose activation. So in chapters 4, 5, and 6 of Purpose Work Nation, my last book, I shared the purpose and belonging business case. Purpose-driven companies outperform the market 15 to 1 and their peers 12 to 1. They experience a 125 to 225% increase in productivity, a 30% increase in innovation, a 7.4-month increase in tenure, and a double the valuation of the company in 5 years. I also shared best practices for scalable culture change and a suggested approach to begin. So if you're eager to begin the purpose and belonging journey in your organization, please reach out to Unity Lab or any of my colleagues in the Global Purpose Leaders. But we, of course, shouldn't stop at developing purpose and belonging in the workplace. Every context, relationship, and interaction needs to be on purpose to face its Wetiko and reform. Beyond work, there are groups that are more friendly to purpose and belonging. Unitarian Universalist churches have a friendly relationship to the stated purpose of the nation, in that they honor folks who have walked all spiritual and soul paths from all traditions, welcome all people. I say all peoples, genders, creeds, races, sexualities, faiths, or lack thereof, all abilities and paths, and exist to connect their members with nature's God, each other, in the pro-social ethics and social and ecological justice practices. Additionally, many mutual aid networks, inter-city PTAs, interfaith coalitions, and YMCAs have a similar orientation towards equality, inclusion, and collective thriving. Many men's and women's organizations, such as the Mankind Project and Women Within, have similar values and aspirations and practices. So, last night in my men's circle, we actually talked a lot about purpose and mission. Men shared where they were at, what their shadows were that were in the way, what are their gifts that they can bring to break through their shadows. And so the Mankind Project, Women Within, create purpose-friendly environments. And specifically because they already have this vernacular around shadow, around parts. And so if you have a strong sense of purpose, get into a women's or men's circle. These are the folks who are going to help you stay on mission. If you don't have a strong sense of purpose, get into a men's or women's circle. These are folks that can help you discover your mission. In addition to my colleagues at the Global Purpose Leaders, who are much more like kind of pointed, like, coach type relationship. But each of these groups, MKP and Women Within, offer the beginnings of a purpose journey. Yeah. So this, sadly, is a very short list, representing at most 5% of the groups in any given area. That said, even most organizations on this short list do not center or cultivate personal purpose or soul-level connections among their members. By default, this sets these groups in opposition to other groups, non-members, as well as within the groups themselves, old members versus new, poor versus rich, men versus women, and at cross purposes to our nation. This doesn't serve their members, the thriving of their communities, or society. It opens the door to Wetiko. So these organizations must also center the activation of purpose and belonging in their member experience. To activate Bison Medicine, you'll need to choose or join a group to engage with. Once you choose an organization or group, you'll need to activate your purpose with 3 other members of that group. So I'll share more on that in the conclusion. After you complete this journey, just like the butterfly, you will have, or like the imaginal cells within it, you will have established the soulful base camp, a cabal of soul-deputized conspirators. As Paul Levy illuminates, he wrote the book Wetiko. This is the group of killer T cells, of antipsychotic agents, who are the immune response of our collective soul that heals our soul sickness, our Wetiko that has invaded it. Together, quote, we come together to create the necessary external structure to contain Wetiko, keep it from going rogue and going out of control. Connecting with each other through our shared lucidity, we can collaboratively help each other to stabilize and deepen our mutual awakening. How this would look in our collective body politic as we wake up together, we can only imagine. End quote. So if you wish to see a faster transformation of your group or organization, you must be strategic and engage your purpose-activated base camp in a discussion about what it would take to have purpose and belonging be the new normal. Once your group is clear and aligned, together your base camp can begin transforming this larger entity. As each organization or group is different, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to a purposeful transformation for your group or organization. Culture change books, such as Leading Without Authority, Culture Code, and Change, can guide your exploration and help you formulate your plan. If you'd like help envisioning the path forward for your organization or group, reach out to me or any of my colleagues in the Global Purpose Leaders. And this is just the beginning. Once there's a critical mass of purpose-activated souls in an organization or group, they have the opportunity to substantially reform it. Research suggests that this critical mass is 25% of the population, after which the belief or behavior or developmental achievement, for example, purpose and belonging, becomes the norm over time. With this critical mass met in an organization or in our nation, the next stage of work begins. We can then operationalize the movement. We can certify organizations led by Bison Medicine. We can stand up Bison-led private equity and consulting firms to accelerate the transition to a Bison-led economy. We can stand up a media organization to present current events through the lens of our nation's purpose, Bison Medicine, and Bison Medicine. We can stand up charter schools and communities to practice Bison Medicine and generate other Bison-led social engineering projects to exemplify what it actually looks like to fulfill our nation's purpose. So you can see these in Appendix A. With a critical mass and multiple examples of communities, organizations, and municipalities guided by Bison Medicine, we can take on fulfilling our nation's purpose at the federal level, such as through a Citizens Constitutional Convention. See Appendix B. So that concludes Part 9. Here's the summary and the discussion reflection prompt. Each of us brings something unique to the shared vision of our future. We have a two-part protocol to begin this journey: purpose and belonging in true community. After we engage with the two-part protocol, we have a team we can collaborate with to expand our impact and support each other as soulful conspirators. Here's the prompts. What aspect of our shared future do you take issue with? What fears arise for you? What yeah buts do you need to name? In which of your alumni, career, neighborhood, or spiritual groups do you want to begin the purpose and belonging journey? Who are the 3 people you will ask to join you? Picture yourself at the end of a purpose and belonging journey with your group, with no constraints around resources, time, power, or what's happened in the past. What possibilities would you love to help realize? Thank you, folks. Again, thank you, Jared Brick, Brickhouse Media. And if this moves you, please consider American Prairie in your giving. See you again soon.